Anger is the most powerful emotion you can experience. And if you live in the province of Ontario, you happen to be in the second angriest region in Canada. But it isn't just the good folks in Ontario who are struggling with anger. It appears we're getting angry as a country. A recent poll found that the number of Canadians who are angry about the 6 rage index topics increased by 1% during the past year. What's a rage index topic? The rage index tracks the mood of Canadians regarding governments, the economy, and current events. And at this time, 60% of Ontarians are angry about these topics. And chances are good, these aren't the only things that contribute to feelings of anger for you. So let's continue with part 2 of my 2-part video about how to manage feelings of anger and frustration. During part 1 of this video, I covered the first 3 steps of my plan, which focused primarily on preparing to utilize anger reduction strategies. And today, we'll continue with the final 7 steps of this plan. So for the 4th step in my anger management plan and the first strategy for today, it's important to identify the physical symptoms that occur in your body when you begin to feel angry. Common physical symptoms of anger include increased heart rate, tightness in the chest and stomach, feeling hot or flushed in the neck and face, sweating, clenching the jaw, and grinding teeth. And of course, you don't need to experience all of these symptoms. You don't need to track all of them to manage anger successfully. What's most important is to take note of the first few telltale symptoms that show up each time you get angry. And this will be important information to know to help manage feelings of anger. For the 5th step, you want to be aware of the mental signs or symptoms of anger. Once again, I suggest taking a moment to think back to the last few times you were angry. What are the most common phrases that jumped into your mind or things that you said out loud? This can vary widely for people, but it could be something like, "I can't stand it when this happens," or "This is ridiculous," or "Why does this keep happening to me?" Once again, it's important to take note of these thoughts or phrases, as they can also provide important information to help manage anger. For my 6th step, it's important to catch the physical and mental signs of anger as soon as possible. And you've probably noticed with anger that it can be hard to control if you don't catch it quickly. Once it builds, it can reach a point of no return, and then it becomes extremely hard to manage. So it's important to catch the physical and mental signs of anger, as well as the situations that contribute to feelings of anger, as quickly as possible, so you can use anger reduction strategies to help manage it. For our 7th step, it's time to explore strategies for actively managing anger. The first step in my plan is to use deep breathing to help calm the body. When we become angry, it's not that different than the Incredible Hulk and what he goes through. But instead of getting huge and green, we get red and tight. And the point of this physiological transformation is to prepare us to fight. And this might seem like an extreme response from the brain, but its primary job is to keep us safe. Not to mention, the amygdala is an older part of the brain. And when we become angry, it releases hormones like cortisol and adrenaline that help to begin a physical transformation that can turn us into someone who's capable of fighting if we need to protect ourselves. So deep breathing can be critical to help reverse or at least slow down this process. And 2 ways to know whether or not this is working is there's a decrease in heart rate and blood pressure. However, deep breathing will likely only be helpful if you catch the feelings of anger quickly. Now, there are many different types of deep breathing, but I'll go over 2 variations for this video. First variation I'd recommend using is when you're in private, and the second variation would be when you're having a conversation with someone and you're attempting to actively manage feelings of anger. But the one constant with both types of breathing is you want to take slow, deep breaths from your stomach. When we become angry and frustrated, we need to take fast, choppy breaths from high up in the chest. So the first variation of deep breathing, the one I recommend using when you're alone, I'd suggest following a breathing tempo or ratio that'll help you to more aggressively slow down your pace of breathing. One example would be to take 3 to 5 seconds to breathe in, 3 to 5 seconds to hold your breath, and 3 to 5 seconds to exhale. And this breathing tempo would be repeated roughly 10 times before you return to breathing normally. And if you continue to find the breathing ratio helpful, you can also alternate using it with breathing normally as many times as you'd like. And to be fair, you can also use this breathing ratio in public. However, if you're concerned about drawing attention to yourself, I suggest using the second variation that I'm about to discuss. Now with this variation, the goal is to still breathe in and out slowly and deeply, but there's no ratio to follow and you aren't doing it in an exaggerated manner. This will allow you to continue engaging in conversation while you attempt to calm yourself. For my 8th step, it's important to calm the mind. And the best way to do that is by using relaxing self-talk. This step is crucial for 2 reasons. Because not only you're attempting to reduce feelings of anger, you're also trying to prevent these feelings from escalating further. And the wrong words in this situation is in self-talk that spikes feelings of anger and frustration. It's just like pouring gasoline on a fire. So I encourage you to develop a few phrases in advance to can help you to calm down or at the very least prevent your anger from continuing to rise. The phrases you come up with are the ones that'll likely work best, but a few examples you could use are, I need to calm down. I can handle this. If I get angry, this is going to get worse. Or this feeling will go away shortly, so I don't need to make it worse by getting angrier. Essentially, any phrase you can come up with to help keep your anger in check and prevent it from rising further is what you'll want to use here. For my 9th step, if you're unable to catch your anger quickly, it's important to leave the situation as soon as possible. So some of you might be wondering, how do I know when it's time to abandon ship on managing anger in person and just leave the situation? To me, there's 2 critical factors for consideration. First, on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is complete calm, 10 is extreme rage, and 5 is moderate feelings of anger, if your anger is an 8 or higher, it's typically time to leave the situation. For the second criteria to consider, if you're conversing with someone and you realize that you no longer want to hear what they have to say, you aren't interested in resolving things if there's a conflict, and you have little desire to use anger reduction strategies despite being agitated, it's time to step away from the situation. But before you do that, I highly encourage you to leave the situation as elegantly as possible. Otherwise, you risk ending the conversation by saying or doing something that will likely serve to make matters worse. So for instance, if you're experiencing conflict while in conversation at home, I suggest saying something like, I'm really frustrated, I just need a timeout for 10 to 15 minutes. I'm going to go to my room and I'll come back after. The goal in this situation is ultimately to get the timeout you need, while also laying the groundwork to talk again in the future. And the promise to continue discussion at a specific time in the future should help prevent the other person from pursuing you and continuing the argument while you're attempting to leave a situation. So the primary key here is to buy time to cool down. If you're unable to effectively manage anger, the longer you're removed from the thoughts, feelings, or situations contributing to it, the more time it allows your brain to regulate the symptoms of anger that you're currently experiencing. For the 10th step, once you calm down, I encourage you to take time to process what just happened. As a good rule of thumb, you don't get the right to deal with thoughts until you're calm. The reason being is it's hard to think logically or communicate effectively if you feel emotionally activated. So once you're calm, it's helpful to process what happened so you can examine it logically. And if possible, combine the step while taking a walk for 15 to 20 minutes. The walk would not only allow you to be alone with your thoughts for a little while, but the physical activity will help to further lower the additional cortisol and adrenaline that accumulated while you were angry. And while you're thinking about what contributed to your feelings of anger, as well as how you responded, it'll give you the opportunity to ask questions like, did I overreact? Was this worth getting angry about? What can I do differently next time? How can I catch my anger quicker? Did it help to get angry, even if I'm pretty sure I was right? Going through this step can help you to bring some closure to what contributed to feelings of anger and frustration. It'll also help you to better prepare for the next time this occurs. So, to provide a quick recap. For my 4th step and the first strategy for today's video, it's important to be aware of the physiological signs that occur once you begin to feel angry. For most people, it's typically a bodily symptom such as increased heart rate that occurs first, and it presents as a warning sign that you're becoming angry. 5th, it's important to be aware of the mental signs that contribute to anger. It's common to have a phrase or two that often pops in your mind during the early stages of feeling angry. Knowing what this phrase or phrases are can be helpful as they serve as a mental warning that you're becoming angry. Next, it's important to be mindful of the physical and mental signs of anger so you can catch them quickly and use anger reduction strategies. For my 7th step, it's time to begin managing the physiological symptoms of anger by using deep breathing. During the early stages of anger, if you're able to catch the physical symptoms quickly by taking slow, deep breaths, this can help you to regulate your body and reduce feelings of anger. And for my 8th step, it's important to use relaxing self-talk to calm the mind. When you begin to feel angry, what you say to yourself in your mind can be like pouring baking soda or gasoline on a fire. So it's important to know what to say to help calm the mind, otherwise you're at risk of becoming even more angry. For my 9th step, it's important to leave the situation if you're unable to catch your feelings of anger quickly. For instance, on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 represents no anger, 10 represents extreme anger, if you're at an 8 or higher, you're unlikely to be able to stay in the situation and successfully calm your body and mind while still maintaining your composure. So in this case, you're better off leaving the situation long enough for your brain to regulate your body and mind before returning at a later time. And for my 10th and final step, it's important to process what contributed to your feelings of anger once you've calmed down. Processing anger is essentially reviewing what happened in your mind by asking questions about influencing factors such as anger triggers, physical and mental symptoms, and how evaluating thoughts contributed to your feelings of anger so you can manage it better in the future. So I hope you found these steps helpful. If you're interested in learning more about anger, please contact us at Sullivan Associates Clinical Psychology. If you enjoyed this video, like it, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.